Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Today is Wednesday, September 11th, here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And, well, as you would expect this time of year, we have a lot of different things going on. A couple days closer to the Backyard Brawl. Have some Steelers injury news I'm probably going to get to first. Want to talk a little bit about the Penguins and their defense and some ongoing previews we have going on. The Pirates won again last night, beat the Miami Marlins. And actually, the Washington Wild Things are playing some interesting baseball in the Frontier League Championship. Going to talk about that. Thank you, as always, for checking us out. We're here Monday through Friday, mid-morning, about 10 minutes. Try to stick to that in a, again, short version podcast. But Steelers-wise, Mike Tomlin talked yesterday. Sort of predictable stuff, at least as far as the quarterback situation. Justin Fields looks like your starter against Denver. And again, I can't say that I am surprised by this. I'm a little surprised that it's even a debate. Ray Fittipaldo and I were in Atlanta watching, and Brian was there too, not the short Brian, but we're watching Russell Wilson really not do too much of anything at Mercedes-Benz Field. He's throwing some short patterns, maybe maxing out about 15 yards, 20 yards on occasion, not dropping back at all, really not testing that calf. I don't see how you go from that to playing in an NFL game. Even during the coin toss, this was small, but everybody else jogged to the sideline. You saw Russell Wilson take his time and walk. So I think when Russell Wilson is ready, he's going to play. I just don't think that he's ready. Whatever he tweaked, whatever they're trying to do as far as being conservative. Again, Mike Tomlin said they're going to go through a battery of tests today. Based on what we saw on the field in Atlanta, I would be really surprised if that turned around enough to play in a game. And again, Mike Tomlin has talked about this before. I think this was Sunday in Atlanta, saying that he would rather have the short-term discomfort and, deal with something for a week, for 2 weeks, rather than make this a gigantic problem. Now, you could probably argue and say this has become a significant problem. And I keep going back to why the heck was he pushing a blocking sled? But we've talked about that. You've wondered that question before. Totally fair. But this has kind of lingered. This has become what they didn't want it to be. Obviously, it was, injured, got it to calm down, and then sort of exacerbated it last week. But at this point, I would rather see them roll with Justin Fields, at least in the short term. I didn't see enough that, you say, oh, my goodness, we have to push this with Russell Wilson. No, I mean, the beginning was kind of rough with Justin Fields. Two, mishandles of the ball, we'll call it. Couple of poorly executed throws. Like, he looked jittery. He looked like a guy who was trying to do too much. And then he kind of settled down and found rhythm. 2 long completions at George Pickens to set up field goals. 1 point, completed 11 consecutive passes, didn't turn it over, ran 14 times for 57 yards. Like, he did what you would expect him to do. So, again, we'll see what he does in Denver. Secondary point that came out of Tomlin's news conference I thought was interesting was the tackle situation. Dan Moore battling an ankle injury, and then what that means for the rest of the line. There's Broderick Jones, and I think this might be it, to not bury the lead. I think this might be your opportunity to get Troy Fautanu in there, to bounce Broderick Jones over to the left side. Talked to Troy Fautanu after that one in Atlanta very briefly, and he said that he thought this week would be a possibility. I know he said that a couple times, but he said he's going to trust in the coaching staff. He dressed for the game as a backup. This very well could be the time to set your tackles and roll with them. We will see. I'm hopefully heading down there this afternoon. Have to write a feature this morning, but hope to be there in the next few days at practice and check out some Steelers action. All right, other stuff. Backyard Brawl. I wanted to tease a column that I wrote. Was actually looking for stuff earlier in the week, and Sam Shulo Jr., who's awesome, a Pitt historian, just is literally an open book about this stuff, and so filled with knowledge. And we were talking about various things, and he threw out November 12th, 1955. And you may not know what that is, and that's fine, but in the history of Pitt WVU, we talk all the time, just college football in general, about 13-9. You just say 13-9 and people know what you mean. Well, this was 13-9 before 13-9 was 13-9. And it's kind of neat. I had no idea, if we're being perfectly honest, and Sam was telling me about this. And so I started reading up on it. And I love doing stories. This is sort of a behind the curtain thing where you're looking at, maybe you're not getting live quotes, but you can go back in the newspaper archives and see how things were covered, see what it was like the next day, who said what in the moment. And so that's what I decided to do, fish back through the archives, talk to Sam a little bit, and learn about that game. So I wrote about this in the column, but basically what you're looking at, Pitt comes in 5-3, WVU 7-0. They're ranked number 6 in the country. There are representatives from the Gator Bowl, from the Sugar Bowl coming to Pittsburgh. They're at Pitt Stadium to watch these teams play. Everybody thinks the West Virginia is just going to wipe the floor with Pitt. Well, that's not how it happened at all for a variety of reasons. West Virginia turned the ball over a bunch, 4 times to be in fact. Lost their quarterback because of injury. Does that sound familiar? They didn't miss any field goals, I don't think. At least I wasn't able to find that in the records. But, made me think of Pat White back in 2007, 5 for 10, 50 yards. In 1955, the quarterback was Fred Wyant for WVU, 1 for 8, -3 yards. 5 fumbles in 2007. Again, 4 turnovers in 55, 3 lost fumbles, I believe. But in any case, Pitt prevailed. It was a wild finish. Check out the column to see how this game finished. And what it ended up being really was a precursor to Bobby Greer playing in the Sugar Bowl. They don't get there without that. Pitt won that game. They beat Penn State 20-0 the next week, got the invite to the Sugar Bowl, and history was made. So it's a very impactful game in Pitt history, college football history, all kinds of stuff. So check that out. Going to take a short break and be back with much more on the other side. But first, a message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
And welcome back to First 10, another thing on the Backyard Brawl. And I want to promote my column with Beanie Bishop and Zach Frazier. I thought this was an interesting dynamic. You've got Steelers players going to work every day next door to the enemy, especially in Zach Frazier's case, where he's from West Virginia and, obviously doesn't really love Pitt. But Frazier was really insightful about basically saying you're in college football, that's what you want, right? Like you want a rivalry like the Backyard Brawl. He can't figure out why it went away. And hey, Zach, neither can I. I think we all know, but this should be played every year. He agreed on that. And Beanie Bishop was just hilarious. What a great talker. And he was talking about, I've heard Sweet Caroline played around here. You know what that means. Whenever I hear that, I get my little chant going. I said, what chant's that? Because I can't say. That was a funny exchange. There's a bunch of fun words from Beanie Bishop about 2 guys sort of behind enemy lines and how they live that. So, all right, I'll leave that one. Can't wait for the Backyard Brawl on Saturday. Pirates won again last night. Andrew McCutchen with his 20th home run, just continually impressed by what he's been able to do as a 6-4 victory over the Marlins. The Pirates have been undefeated against Miami this year. And Kutch said to everybody else what he and I talked about back in June, but basically that he's planning on coming back, or he's planning on playing again in 2025. And I mean, this should make business very easy for the Pirates. You don't turn away Andrew McCutchen. You don't turn away Andrew McCutchen when he's coming off a 20-homer season. Like, this should be the easiest business decisions in the history of them. And I understand that this Pirates group has sort of wanted that DH spot to rotate a little bit more. Well, sorry, Andrew McCutchen's going to take it and give you 750 OPS. No, he comes back, he occupies that spot, and we're done with this conversation. So good for Kutch. Another 20-homer season. Really impressed with what he's done. Not shocked by it, though. All right, so our Colin Beasley went down to Washington to cover the Washington Wild Things in Quebec. I can't even tell you what the Quebec team is in the Frontier League. But it's an interesting story for the Wild Things. They've been in the final 4 times, 2002, 2008, 2017, and 2021. This is their best chance to finally break through and win a championship. They have been really good this year. They don't get as much coverage as, maybe they would like or other people would like or whatever. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on in the sporting world, but they set the club record this season with 67 regular season wins. And they've done it a lot because of pitching. They have the most quality starts, the best whip, lowest ERA, gave up the fewest runs. ERA 3.19, fewest runs, 337 in the Frontier League. Anyway, a lot of numbers to say that they've pitched it really well. 4 guys, 4 starters that are all among the league leaders in various things. The offense was actually very good. Second best slugging percentage in the Frontier League. Caleb McNeely is a West Virginia product, actually was named the Frontier League MVP. He's put up all kinds of numbers this year, signed with Washington in the middle of the season last year after his West Virginia year, hit 323 last year and then just exploded this season. Really good slash line, 297, 377, 578. Don't worry, you don't have to remember those. There's no test. They had the Frontier League batting champ, Tyreek Reed. There's a lot going right for them. Colin did an excellent job telling that story and sort of what Washington has been through, the heartbreak that has occurred in these championship games and series before. So make sure you read his coverage. But an interesting story to follow. Game 1 was last night. The Wild Things won. Game 2 is tonight before the series shifts to Canada. So anyway, that does it for me this week. Thank you for checking us out. We'll be here a couple more days this week. And then, as always, again, mid-morning, make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of this content and a lot more from my Post-Gazette colleagues. Thanks for watching First 10. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.